Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace, hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ju-Yeon Cho, and I have been given the honor of being your facilitator for this conference today. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for being here with us today, despite the very chilly weather. Thank you to all of our guests who have graced us from home and abroad. Today's conference will be held under the theme of approaching 25 years of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, sharing lessons across UN missions and nations. So starting with the opening session, panel discussion 1 and 2 in the morning, we'll also have the special session and youth session after lunch. We would like to ask for your presence until the very end. And just as a reference, we provide a simultaneous interpretation for all of our guests. So please use the receivers placed on your tables. We provide channel 1 for Korean and channel 2 for English. We also have the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace streamed live on our YouTube channel. So for those of you who are joining us live on our YouTube channel, please refer to the live channels online. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us begin the opening session of the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace. So first and foremost, it is my deepest honor to introduce Her Excellency, Ms. Kang In-sun, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, for her welcome remarks. Please greet her with a warm round of applause.
Her Excellency Julie Bishop, Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General on Myanmar, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am honored to welcome you to the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace. I extend my deepest gratitude to all of you for joining us, and I give a special tribute to the courageous and remarkable women who have graced us with their presence. You bring to mind all the brave women throughout history who have worked tirelessly to make this world better. The women peace builders, peacekeepers, human rights defenders, and humanitarian workers all around the world. Women like Hansa Mehta of India, who 76 years ago, when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted, made sure that the words, "all men are born free and equal," were forever changed to "all human beings are born free and equal." Or the women peace activists behind the seminal UN Security Council Resolution 1325, who nearly a quarter century ago broke down that barrier and claimed their rightful seat at the table. The last 70-some years showed us that the things we take today have been anything but for granted. These were progress hard fought for and hard won with nothing less than sheer grit and perseverance. For peace and progress have never been straightforward journeys. These are stories of challenges and resilience, of steps forward and steps back, of growth and growing pains, and of the human spirit that prevails along our messy and imperfect path. Today, as we reaffirm our commitment to the Women, Peace and Security agenda, I firmly reaffirm this truth, that our journey is never going to be neat or easy, but that it is always worth pursuing. As we mark the 25th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda next year, we need your resilience and perseverance more than ever. And we must all come together to amplify your voice for peace as the world faces its most conflict-ridden years since the World War II. Conflicts that deeply hurt women are everywhere, from Gaza to Ukraine to Myanmar. Despite women's critical roles in peacebuilding, the exclusion of women from peace processes also persists, with women making up only 9.5% of negotiators of peace and ceasefire agreements. In places like Afghanistan and just up in North Korea, women are not just denied entry into peace processes, but denied basic human dignity. As an elected member of the Security Council for the 2024 to 2025 term, the Republic of Korea will remain an unwavering advocate of women, peace, and security agenda. We will continue to channel women's perspectives and empower women's voice in the Council's work, advocating for changes that enable more women to serve as negotiators, mediators, peacekeepers, peace builders, and humanitarian workers. This annual conference and newly launched the Action with Women and Peace Fund will mobilize networks and resources to protect women in conflict zones and promote their full participation in peace processes. And in our shared journey of peace and growth, we will work with our partners, our neighbors, civil society, and international organizations to find strength to move forward even when the road is difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not shy away from acknowledging the setbacks, for they are part of the story. Instead, let us commit to resilience. Let us celebrate not just the triumphs, but the struggle it took to achieve them. As we embark on today's discussions, I look forward to all of your wisdom to illuminate pathways for the next 25 years of women, peace, and security agenda. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Your Excellency, for your kind opening remarks and your outstanding leadership and being a role model to women across the nation. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take this moment for a commemorative photo with our speakers and panelists who joined us today. So now I would like to bring to the stage once again Her Excellency Ms. Kang In-sun of the Republic of Korea, Honorable Ms. Julie Isabel Bishop, and Honorable Ms. Susana Guadalupe Marcaida to the stage, and also our speakers and panelists for today. Please join us up on stage for a group photo. Honorable speakers and panelists, please do not hesitate and join us up on stage for the group photo. Thank you very much. So please follow the guidance of our staff so that we can also have a balanced photo all together. Please smile for the cameraman. Our cameraman is standing up on our chair. We take photos very seriously in Korea, so it's very important to have the perfect photo setting. So please bear with us. Thank you very much. All right, and now our cameraman is standing in the middle, so please smile for the photo. Thank you. We have multiple cameras, so I think that they will continue to take some photos all together. Can we now clap for the photo? All a round of applause, please, for the successful hosting of our conference. Thank you. And please watch our cameraman or smile for the cameraman in the center. And keep continuing to beg an applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your cooperation. And now return to your seats. Thank you very much. And once all of our speakers and panelists and our distinguished guests have returned to their seats, we will continue with the opening session. Thank you very much for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. It won't be too long. We will move swiftly on with our opening session. Thank you. And we do have many guests from overseas who have joined us today. And with that, I also have the honor of inviting to the stage the Honorable Ms. Julie Isabel Bishop, the Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General on Myanmar, for her keynote speech for our conference. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome her with a warm round of applause.
Thank you for your kind introduction, and I too am of the school that if there's no photo, the event didn't really happen. So it is certainly happening. Vice Minister, thank you for your speech and your welcome. Ambassadors, delegates, my deep thanks to the Republic of Korea for convening this most important conference and bringing us together to share our experiences and lessons across United Nations missions and across nations. This is a challenging time for your nation, and our thoughts are with you, and thank you for hosting this event. In my role as the United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy on Myanmar, I am acutely aware of the need to address the disproportionate impact on women and girls of the deteriorating situation in Myanmar. There is a need for greater international support to empower women's groups, some of whom are represented here today, and recognise the role they play as peace actors and peace multipliers throughout Myanmar. In the wake of the military takeover in February of 2021, Myanmar women leaders were on the front lines, voicing the democratic aspirations of the people, leading their communities in opening the space for much needed aid to conflict-affected areas. I'm grateful to be among friends here today with whom I've worked closely to keep the focus on the women, peace, security agenda in Myanmar. And I'm especially thankful to ROK, a strong supporter of a better life, a better future for the people of Myanmar, and as a Security Council member, a very powerful voice in this space. I speak at this conference in part to appeal for further collective action on women, peace and security to ensure women are protected despite the volatile situations around the world. And we have a separate session on Myanmar this afternoon when we can delve a little deeper into the situation there. But throughout my own professional and political experiences, I have come to believe firmly that when women are part of the peace dialogue, we achieve a better outcome and one more likely to last. Women must be part of the process so that sustainable peace can be achieved. As we've witnessed in Myanmar, women have driven the ideas around the kind of peaceful and prosperous future the country needs at the national and community levels. This year, during the annual open debate on women, peace and security, the United Nations Secretary General launched his common pledge on women's participation in peace processes. This initiative invites diverse mediation actors, including member states and regional organisations, to join the United Nations in taking concrete action to ensure women's participation in peace processes. Now, women don't always conform to prevailing cultural norms and power structures. They're often overlooked when it comes to high-stakes ceasefire negotiations. Let's face it, to be a woman peace builder or even just standing out as a woman in many environments, even in professions around the world today, takes courage. Challenging cultural expectations of women's roles is a threat to entrenched power dynamics, and the reaction against women can be malicious. Yet remarkable women leaders remind us that transformation and empowerment requires challenging the status quo. We must embrace new approaches to cultivate a new generation of leaders, especially young women and girls who are at the forefront of reshaping power structures and advancing peace. We must also allow the voices of the women behind the scenes to be heard. As Australia's first female foreign minister, I saw the importance of systematically including women in mediation and conflict resolution. In the Pacific region, where Australia seeks to influence outcomes in the interests of peace and stability in the region, we are aware that the Pacific has among the highest rates of gender-based violence in the world, about double the global average. Women who suffered the most in wars and conflicts. What's more, I saw that it was only when women's voices were heard that wars ended. Take, for example, the decade-long war in Bougainville, which was brought to an end with the mobilisation of women. They organised marches, petitions, vigils, mass meetings to end the violence, and it worked. For women now take their place representing the autonomous region of Bougainville and those electorates in the Papua New Guinean Parliament. I recall an early example in my political career. In 2003, I visited the Solomon Islands in the wake of a period of conflict and violence between about 1998 and 2003. A regional assistance mission had been sent in with support from Australia, New Zealand, Fiji and others. And there was a delegation of men inside the parliament in the capital of Honiara, and they were doing deals. They were debating how they would form government. They were dividing up the responsibilities. They were determining the country's future. Outside the parliament, there was a group of women sitting around and they were making baskets. And I joined the group. They knew exactly what was going on, and they said to me, until such time as the women can be elected, and until such time as the women are inside there, involved in the peace building and the peacekeeping, there won't be a lasting peace in the Solomon Islands. Such wise words from women, seemingly disinterested, focusing on their basket weaving. But the women knew then, and the women know now, that for inclusive peace processes to bring benefits across generations, we must reverse the multi-generational impact of conflict and repression. I can't emphasise enough the urgency around the experiences of women in Myanmar, and that underscores our collective moral duty to ensure that international human rights and humanitarian law are adhered to, including that all civilians are protected. Women and girls continue to face widespread and systematic sexual violence, victims of all ages, genders and ethnicities, with the utmost cruelty and brutality. Civilians displaced and fleeing conflict become even more vulnerable to violence, abuse and trafficking, which is so often perpetrated against women and girls. The diabolical situation in Myanmar risks becoming a forgotten crisis, and the people of Myanmar, especially women, need our help. I'm told that there are currently 55 conflicts around the world requiring United Nations attention. My focus, of course, is on Myanmar, but my words extend to the plight of women and girls in any conflict around the world. My priorities include ensuring regional and other stakeholders stay engaged and increase their efforts to achieve peace in Myanmar that is led and owned by Myanmar's people. I will remain focused on ensuring the voices of the women of Myanmar are heard and that they participate fully in shaping the country's future. Without meaningful women's participation, peace will not be sustainable in Myanmar, or for that matter, elsewhere. We cannot allow the women alone to speak about their plight. During Leaders' Week at the UN in September this year, my office organised for 12 women of Myanmar to attend at headquarters in New York and speak directly to member states and advocate directly their cause. It was a powerful reminder of the circumstances and situation in Myanmar, and I particularly want to thank the Republic of Korea for co-sponsoring the event. It meant a great deal to the women and most certainly to our office. All of us must work together to give women a global platform and support women to raise their voices and achieve their desire for peace. I wish you all the very best for this conference.
Thank you once again for your profound message of how women can be instrumental in the forging of peace. Thank you very much for your kind words. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we do have many videos congratulating us on our conference and also some keynote speeches from distinguished guests around the world. First, we will view two videos from Ms. Sima Sami Bauhaus, the UN Undersecretary and Executive Director of UN Women, and of Ms. Ingrid Gjerde, the Chief of Defense Staff of the Norwegian Armed Forces, the former force commander of the UN Peacekeeping Force in Cyprus. With that, let's welcome them on screen.
Excellencies, my deep appreciation to the Republic of Korea for convening this important meeting. It stands as a strong example of the Republic of Korea's unwavering commitment to championing women, peace, and security globally. Excellencies, next year is the 25th anniversary of the adoption of Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. Since then, 111 countries have adopted national action plans on women, peace, and security, including 13 in Asia and the Pacific. When adequately funded and monitored, these plans can be instrumental tools in translating international commitments into concrete actions. I commend all member states who have adopted these plans and urge you to implement them, to fund them, and to work towards truly inclusive peace and mediation processes. Excellencies, the sharp rise of conflict over the last few years is setting us back. Last year, the proportion of women killed in conflict doubled. Conflict-related sexual violence increased by 50%, and military spending rose dramatically. At the same time, gender equality spending dipped, and the percentage of women in peace negotiations has not improved over the last decade and remains in the single digits. 1 in 2 women and girls in conflict-affected settings are hungry. Restrictions of women's reproductive rights and the destruction of healthcare facilities is killing untold numbers of women. In conflict-affected countries, women's rights to move, to be heard, to earn a livelihood, to denounce abuse, and to make choices for themselves and their bodies can represent the difference between life and death. Excellencies, the situation is not hopeless, and we are not helpless. We can and must do better. It is incumbent upon all of us to use every opportunity to make the meaningful action by pursuing accountability for gross violations of women's rights, removing discriminatory laws, or making policy commitments with a target and a deadline, whether for women in peace negotiations or funding for gender equality and women's organizations. That is why we must do much more to involve all women in decision-making, enable a safe space for them to speak up, to participate in mediation processes, and to have a voice in their future. As the Republic of Korea takes a seat in the Security Council next year, we look forward to continuing to work with you to realize the commitments of Security Council Resolution 1325 and to advance women, peace and security for all women and girls everywhere. Together, I am confident that we can move closer to a world where peace is truly inclusive and sustainable. I thank you.
Dear allies, friends and partners, 2 years ago I was a participant at this Seoul conference on women, peace and security. And it was a great inspiration for me. And I learned a lot, both from the speakers, but also from all the good discussions we had within the lessons. I'm happy to know that there are not only women in the audience, but also men. And this is so vital for me. The understanding that we have to engage both men and women when it comes to women, peace and security. This is a topic to have to be understood by both if we're going to succeed. We live in a more dangerous world. In our neighborhood, we have ongoing wars. All my career, I've studied war and conflict. And I've also been to operations twice in Lebanon. I've been to Afghanistan, been to Bosnia and Cyprus. And the more I learn and the more I have experienced, I understand that women are impacted by war and conflict. They are part of the fight. They are victims of war in many, many ways. This is also what UN Resolution 1325 is all about. How women and also children are impacted by war as men. But also how women then have to be an important part of achieving peace and stability in the world. In operations or in negotiations or planning how to handle the conflict and war and how to handle the aftermath. Women, peace and security is mainly about operational effectiveness and achieving goals. Gender equality is a good thing to fight for, but that's not the main reason for focusing on this. The main reason is to achieve our goals, peace and prosperity. My impression is that many still think this is a political correct thing to talk about, and that there is less understanding of the importance to achieve our goals. We have research from the UN that proves that there are differences when we have operations and units where women are participating. And this research is very much in line with what I have experienced myself in the operations I have participated in. There are three main reasons why we need more women in our forces and why mixed forces with both men and women achieve more than the pure male one. First of all, we see that we receive better intelligence. Women communicate in different ways than men. Women perceive things differently than men. And for that reason, we understand the situation better and we communicate better where we can get the information. The other part is that the mixed units, we see less abuse and harassment, both internally in the unit and in the local population, which means that it's safer, it's more secure to have mixed units operating. The third part is that we also see that where we have mixed units, the trust of the operations and the units are better in the local population. Might be linked to the first two reasons. I think we pay quite a bit attention to numbers and share of women. I would like to add that we also should look specifically on what kind of positions we engage women in. And I would say in leadership position at every level, in planning positions, because that's vital for how we operate and execute, and finally, in the positions where we engage with the parties and local population, we should see more women. This concludes what I would like to share with you. And I have 2 points I hope you will remember from my few words. First of all, women, peace and security is not a topic only for women to engage in and handle, but for both men and women. Secondly, women, peace and security is about operational effectiveness and achieving goals more than gender equality. With these words, I want you all the best for this conference, and I hope you will leave more knowledgeable and inspired. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contributions and your keynote speeches. And as she has mentioned, I think that we do have a very good balance of genders in this room. So thank you. That's a great positive for our conference. Well, next, there will also be some congratulatory remarks from our guests overseas. First, Her Excellency Batmuch Batchechek, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, alongside Ms. Jacqueline O'Neill, the Ambassador for Women, Peace and Security of Canada, have also sent us videos congratulating our conference. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome them on the screen.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the government of the Republic of Korea for hosting the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace and the beautiful city of Seoul. I warmly congratulate Your Excellency, Mr. Ju Tae-yeol, Minister of Foreign Affairs, for your steadfast leadership. Today, we all acknowledge that women's leadership profoundly impacts every sphere of life. Their participation in decision-making process is more critical than ever, particularly in addressing the challenges posed by current global crises such as the pandemic, geopolitical conflicts, and humanitarian disasters. Since the adoption of UN Security Council Resolution 1325 in 2000, the Women, Peace and Security agenda has been championed globally, recognizing the unique impacts of armed conflicts on women and girls and affirming their vital role in promoting international peace and security. Over the past 24 years, both the UN Security Council and national governments have worked diligently to implement this agenda. More than 100 UN member states have adopted national action plans, demonstrating global commitment. Yet, despite these efforts, women continue to be the most affected by conflicts, crises, and disasters worldwide. They also face ongoing discrimination and violence across various settings. Therefore, strengthening women's representation and participation in peace-building processes requires renewed commitment from the international community and national governments alike. Mongolia is firmly committed to implementing the WPS agenda through gender-focused policies and a human rights-based approach to development. We integrate these principles across all pillars of prevention, protection, participation, relief, and recovery. For over 20 years, Mongolia has steadfastly supported UN peacekeeping operations and is among the top 20 contributors of uniformed personnel. Since the deployment of our first female military observer in 2006, nearly 1,000 Mongolian women have served in UN peacekeeping missions. This leadership sets a benchmark in the Northeast and Central Asia region, exemplifying our commitment to achieving and surpassing the gender targets outlined in the UN Department of Peace Operations Uniformed Gender Parity Strategy 2018 to 2028. To support the well-being of our peacekeepers, Mongolia has initiated a pilot project for supporting peacekeepers and their families. We hope this initiative gains international support and can be shared with other troop-contributing countries. In June 2022, Mongolia successfully hosted the International Conference on Strengthening the Role of Women in Peacekeeping, welcoming female peacekeepers from over 30 countries. We plan to hold this conference every 5 years, aiming to establish it as a leading platform for female peacekeepers and stakeholders to share knowledge, experiences, and lessons learned. We believe the dialogues and insights shared at the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace will significantly strengthen our cooperation with the UN System and Security Council. Together, we can accelerate the implementation of Resolution 1325 as we approach its 25th anniversary and align with international commitments such as the 1995 Beijing Declaration, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and the new Agenda for Peace. Recognizing the pivotal role of women as peacemakers, peacekeepers, peace builders, and crisis responders is essential for achieving sustainable peace and development. Let us reaffirm our commitment to promoting gender equality, empowering women and girls, and upholding their rights. These efforts are not just integral to maintaining international peace and security, but are vital to preventing conflicts, rebuilding societies, and sustaining peace. Thank you.
Bonjour, hello from Ottawa. Annyeonghaseyo. I'm Jacqueline O'Neill, Canada's Ambassador for Women, Peace and Security. Please accept my warmest thank yous, hamsamnida, to the Republic of Korea and to Foreign Minister Cho for convening the 6th edition of this conference and for the opportunity to join you today. I'm so sorry that I cannot be with you in person to exchange on the important topics on your agenda, including discussions on Myanmar and the role of youth in peace and security. Canada and Korea are strong partners on women, peace, and security. Our ministers of Foreign Affairs and National Defense met last month and spoke about jointly advancing the women, peace, and security agenda, both globally and in the Indo-Pacific. They recognized the importance of our collaboration in their joint statement and committed to enhancing women's participation in conflict resolution, prevention, and post-conflict state building. I'm happy to share that this partnership exists at all levels, from our leaders to our diplomats to our militaries and, crucially, our civil society networks. This year, Canada launched its 3rd National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. We learned from action plans from across the world, including Korea's 3rd Action Plan, and integrated valuable learnings into our plan, including recognizing women peace builders' contribution to dialogue between communities, improving women's representation in government delegations, those participating in political discussions and negotiations in particular, and cultivating expertise and ensuring increased participation of women in programs on diplomacy. At this event last year, I spoke about Korea's commitment to women, peace, and security during your upcoming time on the Security Council. This year, I want to recognize your leadership in this space and the work you've done to integrate women, peace, and security and gender perspectives across your work. Not only, crucially, in sessions or conversations already focused on the women, peace, and security agenda. We recognize also your strong commitment to supporting civil society, including your announcement of support for Sudanese women's representation in conflict resolution. Canada held a seat on the Security Council in the year 2000, and we're proud to be one of the first supporters of Resolution 1325. Korea will be on the Security Council for its 25th resolution. Over these 25 years, much has changed in the world. These changes bring us new opportunities to work together on emerging security issues like climate and cybersecurity with new and expanded partners in areas including Africa, Asia, and the Arctic. However, much has also remained the same. Civil society and women leaders remain at the forefront of implementing women, peace, and security. And leadership from countries on every continent persists, just as it did before when Bangladesh and Namibia led on bringing the agenda to the Security Council. As we approach this 25th anniversary, Canada looks forward to continuing our collaboration with Korea and with those of you in attendance at today's conference to recognize and protect the gains we've made over the last 25 years, to strategize on even stronger implementation of the full women, peace, and security agenda in the years to come, including to create more opportunities for intergenerational peace building. I look forward to hearing the outcomes of this conference, of your discussions, and much more. Thank you. Merci. Hamsamnida.
Thank you to our guests, of course, from Mongolia and Canada for sending in their congratulatory remarks. And now, last but not least, we also have Mr. Bjorn Olof Skog, the EU Special Representative for Human Rights, Mr. Volker Türk, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the Undersecretary General of the UN Department of Peace Operations, who have also sent us their congratulatory remarks through a video. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please turn your attention to the screen.
Excellencies, dear participants, first of all, I'd like to extend my congratulations to the Republic of Korea for organizing this 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace. Thank you for having me as one of your speakers. Unfortunately, I was unable to come to Seoul, but I did visit in October, including to engage on the critical human rights situation in the DPRK. The Republic of Korea is, like the European Union, a convinced multilateralist, active across all 3 pillars of the UN system. We need to deepen our cooperation in these critical times marked by attacks against the multilateral system and against international law. We're approaching next year's 25th anniversary of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which marked the beginning of a series of extremely important resolutions on women, peace, and security. The resolution also played an important role in introducing a WPS angle to the field of peacekeeping and ensuring that today all UN multidimensional peacekeeping missions have gender advisors to ensure gender-responsive peacekeeping operations. We also deploy gender and human rights advisors to EU missions and operations. They play a fundamental role in leading the implementation and mainstreaming of the WPS agenda. In addition, all the women serving in such settings are essential in leading by example through their professionalism and enhancing the credibility and impact of our presence. Thus, in addition to the 3 other pillars of the WPS agenda for us, participation, gender mainstreaming, and leading by example are cross-cutting themes. In the EU-UN cooperation on peace operations and crisis management, one of the 6 priority areas is putting women and girls at the center of security policy. As Korean peacekeepers deploy to numerous peacekeeping missions, your country also plays an important role in this partnership. Cooperation is particularly key in the context of accelerated mission drawdowns, where we risk leaving behind significant gaps, including in dedicated resources to advancing gender equality, women's rights, and human rights more generally. The Republic of Korea has also been a leader on other important priorities for the EU, including efforts related to conflict prevention and peace building, and more specifically, the Peacebuilding Commission. Our continued cooperation is key in the context of the upcoming peacebuilding architecture reform. Gender equality and the rights of women and girls are front and center in our overall foreign and security policy. We discuss it with all our partners in bilateral and multilateral settings, and we work closely with civil society, including women-led organizations, women's human rights organizations, and women human rights defenders. Tackling gender inequalities and gender-based violence are critical aspects of building resilience to security threats everywhere, including at community level. It is essential to solicit the inputs of diverse perspectives, including civil society, women, youth, children, victims and survivors, marginalized groups, and persons in remote areas who may have historically been overlooked. Moreover, transitional justice processes should be gender responsive, and we do not endorse peace agreements that provide for amnesties for sexual and gender-based violence. Proper gender analysis is even more important considering how the contemporary global peace and security challenges have a disproportionate impact on women and girls, including emerging and disruptive technologies and hybrid threats, cyber attacks and disinformation. I know that the responsiveness to such emerging issues is also a core feature of the Republic of Korea's 4th National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security. The topic of women, peace and security is also of essence in relation to your session on the situation in Myanmar. In this context and beyond, it is key that we take a rights-based approach. For example, women and girls are often first and foremost identified as victims of violence, but a rights-based approach emphasizes that this should not overshadow their active participation and agency in peacemaking. Women across Myanmar, across all ethnic groups, tend to have less access to resources and suffer from the intersectional impact of inequalities. However, they are also first responders in their communities, leaders in displacement settings, and serve as the backbone of Myanmar's civil society. Women's full, effective, and meaningful participation is a win-win situation. When women take part in peace processes, it is more likely that a broader set of issues are featured on the agenda, and also that a broader segment of society is consulted. Consequently, peace is also more likely to last. A rights-based approach also means understanding intersectionality and how social identities interact and overlap. UN Security Council Resolution 1325 served as important inspiration for UN Security Council Resolution 2250 on youth, peace and security, and UN Security Council Resolution 2475 on the protection of persons with disabilities. Many other groups do not yet have such specialized resolutions. As we approach the 25th anniversary of Security Council Resolution 1325, we need better implementation of existing commitments in a context where there is a tendency to focus on securitized solutions over human rights-based ones. The Republic of Korea, as a member of the Security Council, ECOSOC, and soon to be member of the Human Rights Council, is in a unique position to address all dimensions of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. The EU and the Republic of Korea are strong partners in this context. So I congratulate you again for the conference. I look forward to deepening our cooperation on peace and security, human rights and development. I thank you very much.
Excellencies, thank you for inviting me to address this important conference. Today is Human Rights Day, but for the millions of people caught up in conflict around the world, it is just another day filled with horror. Another day of being displaced, detained, raped, humiliated, silenced, and dominated. Another day of human rights violated and denied. The Women, Peace and Security agenda offers solutions based on women's leadership and meaningful participation to benefit everyone. We urgently need to take up those solutions. Instead, gains for gender equality are being rolled back, while militarization is on the march. Women and girls are denied their basic human rights as millions of dollars in armaments are blown up before our eyes every day, with the most tragic consequences. This cannot be the new normal. We can and must turn things around by ensuring women's equal and meaningful participation in peace and security at all levels and in political processes across the conflict spectrum. Studies show that the participation of women increases the probability of a peace agreement lasting 15 years by 35%. Yet on average, women constituted less than 15% of peace negotiators between 1992 and 2019. My office is working in Ukraine, in South Sudan and beyond to improve women's representation in building and maintaining peace. More sustained funding and support to strengthen the capacities of women peace builders, of women human rights defenders, of women's human rights organizations are critical. Perpetrators of gender-based violence against women and girls in conflict must face accountability, and we must set up mechanisms to support survivors and protect those who face threats and attacks. Across the board, we must do more to dismantle entrenched, patriarchal, and gender-based power dynamics which harm us all, and secure places for women in decision-making on equal footing with men across all spheres of life. Finally, we must uphold and defend international human rights and international humanitarian law, which states designed to preserve and guarantee our common humanity. You can count on my office's support in these crucial efforts. Change is within our reach. We must collectively act for women and girls everywhere.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to share a message with you today for the opening of the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace. I would like to start by congratulating the Republic of Korea for organizing this important conference and express my appreciation for their unwavering commitment to UN peacekeeping and to the Women, Peace and Security agenda. Distinguished guests, when the Security Council adopted its landmark Resolution 1325 in October 2000, it envisioned a different future. One where women's meaningful participation is not an afterthought, but a prerequisite to resolving conflict and achieving peace. A future where women are safe, empowered, and equal. A future where member states, the United Nations, women leaders and organizations work side by side towards these common objectives. This vision, presented by the WPS agenda, offers the path of hope, equality, and peace, which we need now more than ever. Yet, 25 years later, challenges persist. As we mark International Human Rights Day, the global backlash against gender equality and women's rights is increasing and expanding, threatening to reverse hard-won gains. Armed conflicts are intensifying, exacerbating gender inequalities and presenting specific risks to women and girls. In the face of these challenges, scaling up our joint efforts to advance gender equality and implement the WPS agenda becomes more critical. This is why the theme of this conference, focused on sharing lessons across UN missions and nations, is particularly relevant. For UN peacekeeping, the Women, Peace and Security agenda is a strategic and political imperative. It is a core priority reflected in the Secretary General's Action for Peacekeeping initiative. Personally, I have made it my mission to champion WPS across all areas of UN peacekeeping work. Our uniformed and civilian peacekeepers are advancing this agenda every day by protecting civilians and strengthening gender-responsive early warning. They are advocating and building capacity to increase women's meaningful participation in peace and political processes. They are working hand in hand with women's networks and organizations, safeguarding their space to engage. Yet, political commitment by member states, allocation of resources, and consistent joint efforts by all relevant actors still need to be strengthened to advance the WPS agenda. Today's discussion will present a unique opportunity to reflect on lessons learned in peacekeeping missions, existing challenges, and opportunities to push forward. I look forward to your important contributions towards our common objectives and wish you a successful conference. It matters because women's full, equal, and meaningful participation is our compass for sustainable peace, development, and security. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words. All of our guests who have sent congratulatory remarks as well as the keynote speeches. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to make those videos and send them over to us. With the 25th anniversary of the UN Security Council's Resolution 1325 approaching next year, we do hope that we will be able to see all of our guests in person, maybe by the time that we have our next international conference, this time around next year as well. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the opening session of the 6th International Conference on Action with Women and Peace. Thank you for joining us. We will resume with a panel discussion, our first panel discussion, right after a short break. And we would appreciate it if you could be in your seats and ready to start by 10:20 a.m. Korea Standard Time. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do enjoy the break, and I will see you in just a few minutes. Thank you very much.